Hello YouTube, my name is Paul. Hope you're all keeping well. Welcome back to another comparison video. I've chosen Exolon for this one because it is a superb game. Game I come back to again and again, even today. With many failed attempts of trying to complete the game. I get quite far in it, probably get to about level 75 or something like that, but there are, I think I've seen on a YouTube video, over 100 levels to this game. It's not a game that's hugely varied, it is quite a straightforward game. The Spectrum version in particular has got some absolutely fantastic graphics. So I was wondering how the Amiga would fare against the ZX Spectrum version, because Hewson don't tend to convert their games very well onto the 16 bits. I think the Amiga version came out sometime, maybe a year, 2 years after the Spectrum version came out. But graphically, yeah, like I said, wonderful, colourful graphics. The sprite itself is white. To be fair, I didn't really notice a lot of colour clashing when I was playing the game. The object of the game is just to go from left to right, all through those levels to the very end. Pretty straightforward really. The enemy come from right to left. You do get some static objects in your way, which you use your rockets to blast out of the way. Which is pretty cool. And the explosion effects are brilliant. I'll tell you what, it's not really a lot of slowdown considering how many sprites are chucked across the screen with each explosion. But yeah, like I say, it's quite a straightforward affair. It's pretty much similar. Some levels have a little bit more thinking involved because there's certain obstacles that are in the way that if you don't hit them at the right time, you die. But there is an issue with the respawning that I find on the Spectrum, and I think it's similar across all the formats really. When you respawn, the baddies don't respawn, they just carry on exactly where they were. So if you've got a bullet hurling across the screen from right to left and you respawn, and you're not quick enough to get out of the way, unfortunately you die. So there are bits like that that make it a bit frustrating. The music on the Specky version's a lovely little tune, a very nostalgic tune, a bit like Operation Wolf in the previous video I did. It's just one of those tunes that sticks with me all the time. But yeah, there's not really a lot to describe about the game, but it's a very addictive little number because you get a bit further each time and you want to keep chasing that target really of your previous high score or your previous position in your previous go. If that makes any sense. But yeah, so in comparison to other 8-bit computers, they're all very similar. They all play very similar in a very similar vein, to be fair, and it's very hard to kind of tell them apart. Like the Amstrad version looks as colourful as the Sinclair Spectrum version. I think the difference with the Amstrad version is the awesome animation on the character. Kind of bobs up and down like the old Kiora man, which is pretty cool. I thought that was quite nice. The play area is a lot smaller than the Sinclair Spectrum, but to be fair, they're quite similar. But on the Commodore 64 on the other hand, again, surprisingly very good. Colours aren't as vivid as the other two, but it's got silky smooth scrolling. The slowdown is less noticeable on the C64. But one negative about the C64, for some reason, the enemies seem more difficult, not to kill, but they get in the way more, which I don't get. Maybe they come sort of quicker onto the screen than the other two systems. Whereas generally when you get an enemy come from right to left, it kind of leaves a bit of a space so you can kind of position your man to attack whatever's coming at you. Because the C64 at times, it doesn't leave you that space. So if you misjudge something, you're absolutely doomed. The music is pretty similar on the C64. The Amstrad is identical to the Spectrum. The sound effects on the C64 take a little bit of time to get used to. But I think between the three systems, it's probably just down to your personal preference because they're all very similar and very good, to be fair. Well, as we move on to the 16-bit machines, the Amiga first, because that's what we're comparing the Spectrum against. Now, the Amiga version is identical to the ST version. That should be no surprise. I'm not sure they just simply ported the ST version across to the Amiga. But I noticed the ST version is slightly faster than the Amiga. But the Amiga anyway, they tried to do something a little bit different. Again, same principle. You're going from left to right. Baddies coming from right to left. Obstacles in a way. They've done something a bit odd with the graphics because the graphics do not seem as colourful as their 8-bit peers, really. I thought the graphics were quite bland. Gameplay, because you're playing with a joystick, I think it's a little bit more sluggish to play as well. And so, yeah, it can be a little bit frustrating. But yeah, I was quite disappointed with the Amiga version because they could have done a lot more and it could have looked a lot better than it did. I think it was hindered by the fact it was a straight port from the ST. But yeah, the difference as well between the 16 bits and the 8 bits is the 16 bits have music throughout the game by Dave Rogers, who's probably quite an underrated musician, to be fair. A lot of his stuff is brilliant, especially some of his Hewson stuff on the Spectrum. But the music plays throughout the 16-bit versions. I prefer the AY chip variant on the ST over the Amiga version. But again, it's personal preference. But yeah, it's hard to separate the 16 bits out amongst each other, hard to separate the 8 bits out amongst each other. But for me personally, as per usual, the Spectrum will win. The Spectrum will win all these comparison videos. That's the whole point of doing them. Bit of fun to show the Spectrum can do some good stuff. But yeah, as we know, the Amiga are used to having some amazing games, and there's certainly games on the Amiga that will never ever translate well onto the Spectrum. That's all for a bit of fun, isn't it? So yeah, check out the footage as per usual. And come up with your own answers and your own opinions, really. I'll do another poll like last time. Thank you very much for taking part. I had 37 votes there. Spectrum come out on top. No surprise there, really, was it? But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much indeed for subscribing. I'll see you guys again real soon. Take care and bye for now.